Hello, and welcome to the Atlanta Consortium Virtual College Fair. My name is Becca, and I will be facilitating this Zoom session. Thank you so much for joining us. A few quick housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This presentation is being recorded and will be available tomorrow at strivescan.com/Atlanta. So now I'd like to turn it over to our presenters. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Becca. All right, you guys, before we get started, I'll go ahead and share my screen. It has been such a wonderful week with the Atlanta Consortium, and I hope you guys have had some really great discussions, and we're finishing strong with your college search, how to put your best foot forward. So today we're going to be talking about all things involving the college search process, and we have an incredible panel here for you today. So I'm going to ask my colleagues to introduce themselves, and we'll go alphabetically by school. How about that?
Hi all, my name is Jade Main. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Senior Assistant Director of Admission at Agnes Scott College, which is a small liberal arts college for women located in downtown Decatur. Something special about Agnes Scott is that we have a curriculum that focuses on global learning and leadership development for all of our students. So we promise experiences inside and outside of the classroom in global learning and leadership development. That's a little bit about me and Agnes Scott.
Hi, my name is Autumn Johnson, and I am an admissions counselor at Oglethorpe University. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And one fun fact about our school is we match flagship state tuition for each state. So that is one benefit for our university, and I will pass it on to Alex.
Thank you. My name is Alex LeBlanc, and I am the Director of Recruitment at SCAD, the Savannah College of Art and Design. And so even though this week highlights Atlanta schools, Savannah was founded in, Savannah College of Art and Design was founded in Savannah, but we do have a campus in Atlanta. A fun fact about our school is we actually have a 99% employment rate after graduation, with 91% of those alumni employed in their creative field. So if you're looking to pursue a creative career, SCAD may be a good fit for you. And I will close it out with Morgan.
Hi, everybody. My name is Morgan Offord. I am an admissions counselor at Spelman College. I'm also a Spelman alumna, class of 2019, originally from Olney, Maryland, now, of course, residing in Atlanta. A little bit about Spelman. Spelman is an all-women's liberal arts private HBCU. We having an all-women's liberal arts education, we take full pride in having a very holistic education. So I look forward to sharing some more with you throughout this presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. So as StriveScan let you guys know, we are going to be using the Q&A function. So throughout this presentation, if you have any kind of questions or would like more information, please do not hesitate to let us know. Use that chat function. We are so excited to connect with you guys. All right, Morgan, I'm going to mute myself and you are up to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. All right, so let me go ahead and get us going. So when you're thinking about college, these are just a few things. There are a lot of things to consider, but we would be here for the entire time talking about them. So just to get an idea, you want to be thinking about what part of the country do you want to be located in. Of course, we are all right here in the heart of Atlanta, but you might want to be somewhere else. You may want to consider being in the north versus if you're from the north or versus where you're from the south, etc. Also looking at where do these schools reach as well? So yes, the school may be located in Atlanta, but how can I get to other places through study abroad and possibly domestic exchange? What majors and programs are you interested in focusing in? So somewhere like Spelman, we are a liberal arts institution, so our majors are going to be a little bit more broad, but we have plenty of opportunities for you to hone in on what it is that you're interested in. There are other schools like SCAD that have more specific specific areas that you may be interested in, and things of that nature. And then looking at the student life. So we specifically, like Agnes Scott, we are an all-women's institution. Please do not let all my ladies out there, please do not let that scare you into thinking that we do not have a diverse community, as we are actually, for Spelman, we are right next door to Morehouse and Clark Atlanta. But we, again, are in the heart of Atlanta. So we have access to a number of different schools. So the diversity there is still very important. And then kind of going into the next bullet, diversity is going to be important regardless. Diversity is not just the color of our skin or the race or our background. It looks like a lot of different things, where we're from, what we're interested in, what we're passionate about. So at all of our institutions, as well as all over the world, it is important to keep in mind what diversity means to you, and that the school that you are looking into has that sort of thing attached to it. What type of institution best suits you? So again, like I mentioned, we are a liberal arts institution. Maybe you're looking for a school that is more focused in one specific area. Maybe you want to attend a school that has an amazing employment rate like SCAD does. Maybe you're looking for a larger school, smaller school. So just thinking about the population and size and how you learn best. So maybe, if your high school super large, maybe you want to go to a more chill, urban or maybe rural area. These are all things to keep in mind. And then again, how will you apply? When you're thinking about your school, some schools have rolling admission, some schools have different deadlines. So what works best for you? And please pick the best deadline that works for you. So I think that'll transition us into the next slide if nobody else has anything to add here.
Perfect. So I'll go ahead and pick up where Morgan left off with getting organized. And one thing to remember, at any point in the journey, you're going to have to roadmap this process. It is a lengthy process. And if it's your first time doing so, it can seem a little frustrating. So breaking it down into bite-sized pieces is going to help a long way. And before we get started, one thing that's never too early to start doing is go ahead and making a list of colleges and institutions that you would like to apply to. Are they large public? Are they small private? All the details matter. So think about those things when you're thinking, because as we kind of go through the bullets, that's going to weigh differently at different institutions. So the first is request letters of recommendation early. It is never too early to reach out to that teacher or community leader that you have a connection with to say, I'm getting ready to start applying for colleges and I would love to speak on your behalf. From previous experience, they love when you get to them early rather than you need it in a week and they're trying to rush through it. The more robust their letter is, the better picture it'll paint of you as a student for us in the admissions end. Also for testing, have a plan. I know right now for many institutions, we are test optional. So going into your specific school of choice, reach out and ask or look on their websites to see if they are waiving those ACT and SAT scores for this upcoming year. Oftentimes, if they are, it does not go against or hurt your application to omit those. So always keep that in mind if maybe you were looking to have another testing date, but a roadblock came up and maybe you weren't able to, maybe the date was canceled, go ahead and have a plan to see if that is a required material. As for taking advantage of advanced classes, if you have the means to do so, AP, IB, honors, and dual enrollment classes, because they have a higher rigor, are weighted heavier on your college transcript, which not only shows that you are a high achieving, go-getting student, but also dependent on your grade in the course that you are ready for college level material. As for creating a timeline for writing and submitting college essays, please, please, please take your time. Often, like the past year, we don't really get a lot of face time with students not being able to come on various campuses and things of that nature. And for the beginning of most students' higher education career, your essay is going to be our first reference point of who you are as a student. So whether that's a selected piece you chose, maybe you wrote for your senior English course that you were super proud of, or maybe it's just a little excerpt about yourself. Also, based on the different applications types, whether it's a private application through the school's website or the Common App, there may be prompts available, but go ahead and don't just submit your first draft. Look at it 2 and 3 times, make sure that prompt fits you and what you would want to display to the admissions counselor on the other side reading it. Also, for the creating a timeline for your college essays, Also think about your other materials that may need to be submitted, such as transcripts. Kind of going off the requesting letters of recommendation early, your high school counselor will very much so appreciate you being ahead of the game, saying, I know I'm getting ready to apply to this list of colleges. May we be able to prepare something to send on this date? So that way, when your application is submitted, all of your materials can kind of go over at the same time, and we're not waiting for bits and pieces to trickle in on the college admissions end. Also, create and establish a timeline with your family or guidance counselor. So for most families, submitting your FAFSA or any internal aid form to help with federal aid to attend a college or university, that does have an open date that's usually around October of each year. So making sure that you're going in, filling out those required forms with those in your family that need to assist you, and submitting those will also help financially for your college planning, in addition to any other deadlines, planning for tours and things of that nature. So to kind of sum it all up in this last bullet point, keep a running list of important dates and deadlines. Some institutions offer early bird or early action, which means that if you apply by a certain date, oftentimes by December of that year or January, you will know of your acceptance rather than having to wait towards the end of March or the middle of April for your decisions. Also, if you can kind of keep a list of the schools you're applying to and their protocols, if you ask, a lot of students, or excuse me, a lot of college campuses may be offering incentives for students to submit their application by a certain date by giving fee waivers or kind of other incentives to make sure all your materials are in. We also know that campuses often offer prospective student days and admitted student days that have registration dates and things like that. So the more active you are in the planning for your college career, the more easier and the more effectively the transition will be from getting you from an applicant to a current student on our campuses. And that's all on my end if no one has anything to add.
Anyone else want to jump in? I think I would be doing my institution a disservice. Autumn definitely hit very close to home with like letters of recommendation and deadlines and essays. At SCAD, we do not require an essay, but we do have a portfolio that students can submit. So I just want to let you guys know that for specialty institutions like SCAD, like art and design schools, we have very different portfolio requirements from school to school. Some will use them for issuing admission decisions. For us, it's only for scholarship consideration, but you need to put a lot of time and thought, and you only get one chance to submit all of these different materials, whether it's an essay or a portfolio. So really do take your time and ask for help. Ask for help from the institutions, make sure you understand what they're looking for, and get feedback. You should never be submitting an essay or a portfolio cold without any kind of prior feedback. All right, Jade.
Awesome, thank you so much for that cue, Alex. So now I want to talk about finding, I think an important piece of this conversation is finding your financial fit when applying to colleges as well. So one thing that I want to recommend is that you start the conversation early. So things that you might start thinking about is like, who is going to be paying for your college education? Is this something that you're expected to do on your own? Do you have some support systems helping you to pay for college? And when you do kind of have a sense of maybe who is going to be a part of this from a financial support piece or from just kind of an emotional support piece, when you identify those key players, having conversations about what is an affordable cost for you, and are you willing to take out loans? Is that something that you're willing to do as part of this process? Are you going to be working while you're in college? Do you plan to pay like you're entirely out of pocket? Very few students pay nothing to go to college. college is typically, it's an investment, right? So while you probably won't know exactly what it'll cost you at each individual institution until you start going through the process of applying for scholarships, financial aid, and admission, it's never too early to at least begin having those conversations. One thing I'm just now thinking that I think it's important to talk about is that every college has a cost calculator on their website. So while you won't know exactly what you're going to pay to go to any institution, I would encourage you to check out the cost calculator at different institutions to get a sense of an estimated award. So an estimate of what students who came from a similar financial and academic background as you the previous year received from that institution. That might give you a little bit of clarity as you're kind of figuring out that piece. I also want to encourage you, kind of on that same note, to give yourself options. When creating your list of schools to apply for, you should be considering cost. You might have a dream school, but if you're applying to only one school, that really puts you at a risky position in case things don't work out or if things change from a financial standpoint. So it's important to have at least one school on your list that you feel pretty good about from an affordability standpoint. However, it's also important that you are not kind of leaving schools off of your list just because of the upfront costs. You never know what you might qualify for in terms of scholarships and financial aid. So don't let costs deter you from applying for a college that you're excited about, but also have some schools that you think are a good financial fit on your list as well. You heard me mention earlier that college is an investment. I know it can be tempting to compare colleges solely on what it's going to cost or what their tuition is, but it's important to think about what you're specifically willing to invest in this process. Do you want things like small class sizes? Is having a robust health center important to you? Do you have a very specific major that you're looking for, or is there a first-year program that's offered at a specific institution that you're in love with? And if so, how much are you willing to invest in order to kind of get that experience? Another thing that I would mention is, how long is it taking students to graduate from that institution? Because while an institution might have a more affordable price tag, if it's typically taking students an extra semester or a year to graduate, that's perfectly fine, but there are definitely cost implications to that as well. So that's another piece that you might want to be evaluating. Something else that I wanted to mention is that you have a solid 4-year plan before actually enrolling at a college. So it's important that you have a plan not just for your first year, but for all 4 years, that you have a solid financial plan before you actually wind up enrolling at that institution. Searching for external scholarships or outside scholarships. Many institutions, I know Agnes Scott certainly does, accept outside scholarships, and that can really make a difference for a student's ability to afford an institution. So that's another thing. It's not too early to start looking for those. If you are earlier on in your high school experience, you can start looking at those and look at what the requirements might look like, and kind of continuing that process and being aware of deadlines and things like that. So that can definitely make a difference from a financial standpoint. And thinking about what types of aid are available. So, there's aid from the federal government. Some states have need-based aid. So there might be, need aid at that institution. I know here in Georgia, we have a merit aid program for students. So there are a few different kinds of aid, and you might see what kind of aid that institution specifically partners with. Do they accept federal aid? Do they give merit aid? And I think in that point, merit aid is really important. Autumn talked a little bit earlier about how they at Oglethorpe match flagship institutions. At Agnes Scott, we have very specific criteria for some of our scholarships as well. So you might want to get a sense of what kind of aid is offered at that institution and when you need to apply by in order to receive that kind of aid. So application deadlines are sometimes different than scholarship and financial aid deadlines. So making sure, going back to the slide from before, that you're really getting yourself organized about that piece as well. Does anyone else have something they want to add about the financial planning piece of all of this? All right, I think we can move on.
Okay, cool. All right, so when you are navigating this college search process, communication is key. First and foremost, when my colleagues and I were putting together this presentation, we all had a good chuckle because we always see the funniest email addresses and we get to hear the most hilarious voicemail messages. So as you guys are sitting down and you're preparing for college, just keep in mind that all of the colleges that you apply to are going to be emailing you and calling you and trying to connect with you. So you want to establish a professional email and voicemail message. It will serve you very, very well as you move through high school and the college level experiences. And then along the same lines, you really want to be mindful of how you communicate with colleges. I think sometimes, especially in very tense times, we forget to give each other grace. And so just being patient with one another, but always being very professional and putting your best presentation forward. It is definitely hard when we get hung up on or when we get incorrect, uncomfortable messages. And so, I think just always being mindful of how you choose to communicate with the colleges, especially if you have visited or applied, because we want to get to know you. And we want to make sure that this is mutually beneficial for both you and for us as an institution. We want to let you guys know you have to take initiative and you cannot be afraid to ask questions. That's literally why all of us exist on this call. We are here to help you. We want to be part of this college search process with you, and you should never be afraid to ask questions. And taking initiative, this can really make a big difference to a college, especially a lot of the colleges on this call are private, they're smaller, they're liberal arts colleges. They really care about their campus community. So the more excited you are to come and be a part of our community, the more excited we'll be about you as an applicant. So taking initiative and really getting to know us and communicating and asking your questions. Also, pro tip, don't have your parents call. You guys pick up the phone. You guys call us. Your parents have been through the college game. They have paid their dues. This is your journey. So I do encourage you guys, the students, all the students logged on today, like take initiative in this entire process. This is for you. Do communicate with your admission counselor. Oftentimes they're your one-stop shop until you actually get to campus. So if you have already applied and been accepted and you're not sure who your admission counselor is, you're not sure who you should be speaking to, we definitely need to reevaluate and make sure that we all get on the same page. So do not hesitate to constantly communicate with your admission counselor. Autumn and Jade brought up really good points about getting organized and having a timeline in place. Also, that financial fit component. Let us know where your need is. Let us know what state incentive scholarships you're receiving, especially if you're coming from out of state. There are a lot of different avenues that we can pursue to really help guide you through this process. And then definitely let colleges get to know you. The worst is hearing from a student saying, okay, what do I have to submit? What's required? And then we spend a lot of time talking about supplemental materials and other things that you can do to really express yourself and to put your best foot forward as an applicant. And you're like, is that required? No. Okay, I'm not going to do that. It's not required of me. Please take some time and really fill in the gaps for us. I am sure you guys are way more interesting than your transcripts and test scores, and we genuinely want to get to know you. And the more we get to know you, the more we'll be able to help you, and we'll be able to steer you in the right direction and advocate for you. So please let colleges get to know you. And whatever you decide to do in terms of applying, like put your whole heart into it, because we on the back end work very hard to make sure that we're giving ourselves to you and making these doors open for you guys. So communication is definitely important when navigating the college search process. Anyone have anything to add?
Yeah, I actually do. Just kind of
Perfect.
piggybacking off of what we're saying. I know for Spelman and a lot of institutions, they take a holistic approach to admission. So these sort of things are going to be really, really important when, I guess I know this student, but maybe this student, and we've all been in a situation where we feel like one part of us is a lot stronger than the other part, and we're looking to compensate, and we want our admissions counselors to fight for us. We're fighting for ourselves, really putting our best foot forward. But sometimes first impressions are lasting impressions. So how you come across in your email, how you come across in a phone call, whether your parents are calling versus how you're calling, those are all things that we put in the back of our head. That's something so simple as visiting institutions and communication in terms of literally face to face, maybe talking to students, maybe doing different things to get yourself out there in a very genuine way. Those are things that we can then add to your application as a way to then also fight for you and really help us help you in terms of this journey. But I know for me, and I'm sure all my colleagues can attest to this as well, when you do get a harsh email or a harsh phone call or something like that, it is a little disheartening for us because we are so dedicated. I've only been talking with these ladies in the past couple of weeks, but I can just tell how passionate we all are about our positions. So I cannot stress this enough that this is really, really important and can have later, just like a job interview, like just like anything like that, anything can carry with you and can play a role in making your decision with with the admissions team.
Absolutely. I could not have said that any better. Anyone else have anything to add with communication? No? Yeah, we'll all just keep in touch and we'll just go from there with professional email addresses. All right, Jade, I'm going to turn this over to you to give some friendly reminders about things that our friends here should not forget to ask.
Yeah, so we wanted this is our last slide, and then we'll take some questions, but we really wanted the opportunity to, we're telling you some things to do and some things not to do. We wanted to give you the opportunity to learn or to have a sense of what you could kind of be asking the different institutions. We're asking you to talk to us. Here are some questions we encourage you to kind of be considering and be putting on the colleges that you're considering through this process. Oh, Alex, I know you told me who was going first, but who's going? Is that you? Are you taking the first one?
Yeah, I'll go first. My pro tips for you guys were to ask all of the schools that you're interested in for outcomes and alumni stories. Truthfully and wholeheartedly, the more you can talk to current students and alumni of all of the schools that you're interested in, the better off you're going to be, because they will have lived the student experience. They will be currently living the student experience. So very quickly in communicating with them, you'll be able to say, okay, I can see myself here, or maybe I need to widen my search a little bit. So I definitely encourage you to ask about university outcomes, like employment rates, like success stories, like their top programs, their endowment, anything to really get you connected to the university. But I absolutely love sharing alumni stories with my students, and they've been exactly where you guys are going to be. So they are definitely a good resource for you guys. Jade, I have the second bullet as well, so I'll just keep going. My second pro tip for you is to ask about pre-college programs. This is going to look different from institution to institution. These are often opportunities that are out-of-pocket expenses for you and your family. So you definitely do need to plan ahead for any pre-college programs. Keep in mind with pre-college programs, this could include summer workshops, actually taking classes, coming to campus, maybe virtual experiences. But I am definitely a huge advocate for pre-college programs because this gives you guys an opportunity to really experience the colleges prior to committing 4 years or 4+ years of your life to an institution. So pre-college programs will allow you to give these schools a really strong test run And I can definitely speak more about these in the chat. I know there were a couple of questions for them about them. Just a heads up, pre-college programs are typically for current high school students. And like I said, because this is meant to give you guys a good test run of the institution, most pre-college programs are gonna only be open to current high school students. You will have a hard time finding kind of 13th year-ish programs. And the idea is you'll come and enroll in an institution and you'll be there already. So you'll be too busy preparing for college in general to really give yourself some time to do a pre-college program.
Perfect. So I will pick up with the third bullet. And one thing, especially in today's time, is to ask how admissions policies have changed due to the pandemic. So though things are beginning to open up a little more, we're not completely in the clear yet. So things like, are you still going to be test optional for this incoming class? Are your essays going to be optional? Are you taking other materials? I know Alex brought up different forms of portfolios instead of maybe an essay. And I know for some institutions, they will set up an interview time with you to kind of meet one-on-one since tours have been limited, and they have now allowed video submissions. So there are a lot of different ways that we are now kind of virtually allowing students to interact and connect with us, but putting your best foot forward and getting out there saying like, hey, I am super interested. And even though we can't have that in-person connection like we would have in years past, I still want you to know that I'm committed, I'm driven, this is what I'm involved in. And that really does go a long way. Much like your essay, these are going to be the first moments that we are going to have with your profile, with your application, essentially with you. So make sure to make things memorable. This is the first time if you do an interview or a video that we might be able to see your personality and things like that, that maybe you don't think we care about. But as Morgan mentioned and everyone on this call has mentioned earlier, I can also attest that every one of my colleagues here tonight, we care about our students. We want to know our students. You're not just a name that's going to come across our desk. We're going to see you at on-campus events, and we hope to see you in the fall walking to classes. So when it all starts with your admissions decision, and that gets you into the door. By putting your questions out there saying, how do I get there, is the first step. And a lot of different institutions go about it in different ways. So it's not going to be streamlined from going to your large public school to your small private. They're each going to have different things that they want that are optional or that are required. So kind of going back to your getting organized, go ahead and make your list of what is needed where, so you guys can get those materials to them in a timely manner as well.
All right, I think it is on me. So Alex talked a little bit about why it is important to get stories from alum and from students, but you need to ask how. How do I connect with them? How do I get to see current students, especially in light of everything going on? I know Spelman, we're sort of hybrid this semester, but we're all still mainly virtual, and you still want to get that engagement. You still want to get that feel. I do think that alum are great. I'm an alum of my institution and people love to talk to me, but I like by the skin of my teeth got out before the pandemic. So I do not know what it's like to be a student in this virtual space. So it's important to get in contact with those students and really ask them these questions. What does this look like? How am I getting my Spelman experience or my SCAD experience or my Oglethorpe or my Agnes Scott experience still, even though it is virtual? I will say one thing that is very, very important in terms of current students, and any of my colleagues can correct me if I'm wrong, please do not compare their story to you. Your story is your journey, is customized to you. Nobody can take that from you. So when you are connecting with your students, your first question should not be, well, what did your application look like? What did you have? Because every year changes. The competition changes, the way things look change, requirements change, all those sorts of things. So I do not want you to base your journey on anybody. This whole presentation is about being authentic to yourself. So that's going to be very, very important. There are tons of questions you can ask current students, but I would not start. Actually, I probably wouldn't ask at all. What did your application look like? Because that is not going to provide you with the proper information for when you are applying.
Thanks, y'all. And I'll kind of bring us home with us. So Another important question to ask would be, if you are planning to visit campuses, when's a good time to visit? I think oftentimes high school students want to visit while they're on break, but unfortunately a lot of the time that means that we are also on a break, which a lot of the time you can still visit our campus, but it's probably not going to be alive with students, right? If they're away at home or something like that. So if it's important to you to see our students engaged in, their home and their natural environment, then you want to know when our breaks are and when would be a good time to visit campus. Another thing that comes to mind, this is really, it's personal to me. I think about how this is important to me in my college search, but what is your school doing to support diversity and inclusion? When I was in high school, I think it was very important to me that I was in an environment where I was not the only one of anything. That was really important to me. But I think kind of beyond that, what are institutions doing not only to kind of provide that diversity in these spaces, but to make sure that people feel accepted and included and safe in their identities. So that's another important question to kind of ask to different offices that you're interacting with. So I think that's our last point. And now we have 10 questions so far already in the Q&A. So I figured we could go ahead and go through those. The first question that I'm seeing on here is, do we have law programs? I think that's an easy, like if you have a pre-law program, you want to go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, awesome, cool. So we can go ahead to the next question. Do y'all want me to, I can just kind of read them and we can kind of go through. Do any of the college panelists know if there's a summer camp opportunity? So Alex already spoke to that one. When applying to colleges, how important are community service hours? So we've already talked about the holistic review process. Is there someone who wants to speak to community service in particular?
I can really quickly. So at Oglethorpe, we also look holistically at the student. So if you are kind of concerned that maybe your GPA isn't where it needs to be and things like that, where you are super, super active in giving back to your community, maybe you work part-time, things like that, it all creates the picture of who you are as a full student in person. So they are very important. I know, especially on our campus at Oglethorpe, we do have days of service kind of ingrained and embedded during orientation weekends and things like that. So coming in with that already built in, that mindset that like giving back is important and essential, really does go a long way in telling us about your character, and not only as a student, but also as a person that's going to benefit our campus in the next 4 years to come.
I think that touches on it from our standpoint too. Thank you so much, Autumn. So there was a question. I would love to kind of, take a stab at this question. And if anyone else has something to add, please feel free to. The student asked, who would be there to support the process if you're a first generation college student and can't get help from your parents? So I really want to emphasize that your high school guidance counselors can be a really great resource to you through this process. I know different students might have varying access to their guidance counselors, but that is one resource. Oftentimes when students are looking for outside scholarships or understanding their financial aid awards, or just looking for where to start, I think that's a really good resource for you. And I would also say that even if your parent might not have gone through this process, they might still be interested in kind of talking to you about it and learning about the process through your lens. So if you have a parent who's excited to be involved in this process, even if they hadn't gone through it, I think, involving them could be helpful. But you could also look into like older siblings or friends who graduated from your institution. I think that's actually probably a really great resource. People who graduated from your high school the year before could also be another kind of layer of support for you. And finally, we are happy to be a layer of support for you too. So admission counselors are eager to have conversation with students and get to know you and to answer any questions you have. I feel like no question is too small. I really believe in meeting students where they're at in this process. So we're happy to be another layer of support for you. Does anyone have something that they would add or counter with?
Nothing to add, but just in case we get cut off, I am going to move to the next slide because we asked about support. And Jade, yeah, you said it, like we are here to support you. So even if you're not interested in art and design, or even if you're not interested in a women's college or, studying in Atlanta, we have a lot of collective experience on this call. and we want to help you. So you have our emails and our office phone numbers or cell phones on this. So please take a screenshot and keep in touch with us. So we are here to support you guys. And I know we're not going to get to all of the questions, but Jade's going to keep rolling with as many as we can get to in the 5 minutes we have left.
I am trying to answer some of them, type some answers. School specific, I can't, but I am trying to get in there and get everybody's questions answered.
Thanks so much, Morgan. And we are going to get a list of the questions afterwards. So we can have a plan to do follow-up as well, but I'll try to get through a few more during the time that we have left. Alex, thank you so much for speaking to the fact that, yes, we are happy to be a resource for you beyond just our institution. We're all about just access and students going to college. So happy to be a resource. How should we approach colleges and emails? So I feel like we talked a lot about like what not to do, right? Like don't make it like a text message. Does anyone have something they want to say in terms of like how to structure an email to a college?
I'll go very quickly. Formatting. So start with a heading, Dear Miss, Mr. Name, the body. Try not to use too many contractions or slang words. Try to make it kind of grammatically sound, and then a closing. So sincerely, Bess, thank you for your time. And your name, if you would like to add like a contact number below your name, that's perfect. So we know how to reach you as well. But just kind of making it clean and streamlined. So it's not like we're reading a text via email, because that's kind of strange all the way around to read and respond to, but just try to make it as formal as possible or as you know how. And as Alex mentioned earlier, ask for help. If you don't know, find a teacher that you're comfortable, a family member that you're comfortable with, and see if they can kind of guide you in the right direction.
Yeah, some of the best advice that I have is if like you wouldn't do it or say it in front of your grandparents, then you probably shouldn't do it or say it to us. We also, you know, have lives outside of our institution. So like, just be aware, like this is my cell phone number that you guys have access to. I literally have students who text me at 2 a.m. and they don't think twice about it. And on one hand, that's really great. But on the other hand, it's a little stressful. So just like you guys don't want to get woken up by us calling you at 8 a.m. while y'all are on spring break, just be aware that, you know, we are readily available, but you want to be respectful about our time, just like we are of yours.
Thanks so much for that, y'all. So this was another kind of very specific, do you have it? So do you have a major or clubs related to computer science? Can you just raise your hand if you do? Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like this too. So it sounds like, you know, all four of us have some kind of option. So feel free to reach out to, if you are interested in one of us specifically, reach out to us and we can explain what this means. We can talk more about our computer science programs. Okay, so this question, a student was asking about the average ACT and SAT scores accepted for students for colleges around the Georgia area. I think what I would say to that is that it's really going to vary from school to school in terms of what our averages look like. A lot of the time we advertise those on our website, so that's something that you can really easily see. But you can also reach out to an admission counselor to get a better sense of that if that's something that's important to you. Do we feel like does anyone have something to add to that? Okay. And then another student asked, is the essay portion of the SAT considered when applying to any of these colleges? And if so, what is the average good score? Can I really quickly, can you either do this or this if you accept the essay portion of the SAT? I don't. No, okay, cool. So none of us accept the essay portion of the SAT. Is Agnes Scott on spring break next week? We already had our spring break. We are not on spring break next week. If you're interested in visiting, we can talk more about that. Did anyone have an astronomy degree or astrophysics classes? It sounds like I don't know if they're asking if like we have personally taken these courses. Agnes Scott has an astrophysics program. Does anyone else have an astrophysics program? Okay, cool. So student who asked about that, we need to talk later. We do have an astrophysics program. Do admission counselors take your virtual, oh, that one went away. There are a lot of questions about SAT and ACT requirements. As of right now, okay, so we have 1 minute left, so I don't know if I can get too deep into this, but as of right now, ACT and SAT, I would say reach out to your individual institution that you're looking at.
Thank you, everybody, so much. Really enjoyed this. Hopefully y'all got some good information.
Thanks so much, y'all.
All right. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback that you can provide. Tomorrow, you'll be able to find this session's recording as well as all other session recordings at strivescan.com/Atlanta. Thank you so much. Thank you to our presenters and have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.